Hello, and thank you for taking some time to join us today as we talk about emergency communications for schools and universities. My name is Tim Means, and I'm the Director of Product Management at Metis Secure. Joining us today is Joanne Pekich, and Joanne is our Marketing Director.
Hello.
We have a lot to cover in a short time today, so let's jump right in. The slide shows some statistics for homicides and serious violent crimes in K through 12 and colleges and universities over the past number of years. The rate for homicides at K through 12 schools averages of between 15 and 20 per year, and the same is true for college and university settings. Active shooters tend to get the most attention, but there are also bomb threats, stabbings, and abductions, all of which may require a lockdown or an evacuation of your school facility. There are violent and other dangerous incidents near school that may require a lockout. And in addition, there are attacks on teachers, sexual assaults, and fights among students where emergency call tools may be needed. In 2010, the rate of serious violent crime against youths at school was about 6.6 per 1,000 students. And that gives you a picture of what's going on inside our schools today. Are you prepared? According to a recent survey in Campus Safety magazine, only 29% of the respondents strongly agreed that they are adequately prepared for an active shooter, and only about 22% strongly agreed that they are prepared for a bomber. With that in mind, we are going to cover the 5 things that you need from your emergency communication system during a violent incident. All of them in some way or another are related to speed. The speed at which you and your customer can communicate emergency instructions to everyone on site, and the speed at which people in need can reach you and get help. So, number 1, reach everyone at the site in seconds. Your emergency communication system should give you the ability to reach everyone at the site of an emergency within seconds. Violent incidents tend to erupt and proceed very quickly. It's a cliche to say that seconds count, but in the case of violent incidents, they really do. Tools like mass email and text alert services are great for sending out less urgent information to large numbers of people, but they have some limitations for high urgency emergency situations. They don't allow you to target everyone in a single building or even a single floor in a building. You can't easily send different instructions to different emergency locations at your site. So those kinds of systems are inadequate when you need to immediately alert everyone at the site of a violent incident. You need a system at your site that lets you reach everyone at the scene almost instantly, whether it's an active shooter situation or something more common like a violent fight that's gotten out of control.
The second thing you need from a communication system is the ability to communicate actionable instructions. People used to use their fire alarm systems for all emergencies because it was an almost instantaneous way to reach everyone. But evacuating a building is sometimes the worst course of action. In a violent situation, you need a way to tell everyone in one or multiple buildings to take shelter in a locked room and stay away from windows and doors. In the past, tone systems were put in place to notify people about different types of emergency. A set of incidents were defined in advance, and a unique tone or siren was assigned to each. Unfortunately, in a real crisis, these get confusing, even for people who have been trained to know what they mean. For that reason, emergency voice instructions have become the standard for effective emergency communications. Many schools with a single small building and few or no outside areas to protect will use their PA systems to tell everyone to lock down. That's probably a good notification solution for a small single-zone school, but intercoms and PA systems are generally too limited for larger sites. The third thing you need your system to do is target different instructions to different locations simultaneously. If your customer's site has outdoor space like athletic fields or parking facilities, or multiple buildings, floors, or large areas, you will have an emergency that requires different emergency instructions based on location. For example, a shooter may be reported in a school building, while a large group of students are at a nearby outdoor field. You may or may not have a way to communicate with the outside group, and if you don't, you should.
Joanne, if you can communicate with the group that's outside, you don't want to give them the same lockdown instructions as a group inside. You could have students trying to re-enter the building or running from the site in a panic, putting them in danger and making it hard to account for them later. You need the ability to direct the outside group to assemble at an outside evacuation point while telling everyone inside to lock down. Of course, that's just one example. There are lots of incidents that call for different emergency instructions to go out to different groups as quickly as possible, and that's difficult to do with an intercom system.
With a modern emergency communication system, this can be handled automatically at the press of a button or click of a mouse. You can integrate with your outdoor speakers, PA systems, and other existing devices to leverage your customers' current investments.
Just as you need to get out the right emergency instructions to the right people in seconds, people need a way to reach you and tell you what's wrong. Many violent incidents at schools and universities are over before police can get there, even in the case of universities that have on-site campus police departments. So 911 is important for summoning outside responders if necessary, but the real first emergency response needs to happen on-site. Panic buttons are useful tools, but it's best to have a way for people to be able to speak with you and tell you what's happening. This gives security, resource officers, and campus police much better situational awareness, so they know if an urgent response is required and what that response should be. Unlike emergency phones, voice communication systems should be hands-free for the caller so that he or she can just hit the button and verbalize what's happening while dealing with the emergency. Security can also hear background noise, which may provide valuable information. You can also integrate silent panic buttons with an emergency call system.
The fifth emergency communications capability you need is automatic location identification. You need to know where an incident is occurring and where to send help. IP-based systems can automatically identify a caller's location. Our system, for example, automatically shows the location on an on-screen map. These needs can be grouped into what we call outbound and inbound communications. Outbound and inbound communications go hand in hand. For example, your first indication that a shooter is on the premises may be someone hitting a call for help button. With an integrated system, if the report is credible, you can then turn around and activate a lockdown alert immediately without having to switch to a different system. With our system, both these capabilities are built in, and we'll show you an example in a few minutes. If you have separate systems for outbound and inbound communications, they should be capable of integrating in some way.
When you're thinking about emergency communication systems options, remember people with disabilities. For people with hearing impairments, strobes and on-screen text instructions or digital signage work well to provide emergency information. For people with mobility impairments, many codes call for new or renovated multi-story buildings to have hands-free, two-way communication systems either in areas of refuge or by elevators. This is so that people who have trouble navigating stairs can also get help. If you're upgrading your emergency communications, it's often cost-effective to address these issues as part of the overall plan. Dealing with violence is obviously top of mind right now, but it's most effective to take an all-hazards approach to communications, so you have the flexibility to deal with whatever type of emergency arises. Generally, there are 4 types of instructions in emergency situations. First, you want to be able to instruct everyone to evacuate the building or multiple buildings. Second, in the case of violence at your site, you may need to instruct people to lock down the facility. Third, in the case where violence occurs nearby, you may need to initiate a lockout. And finally, in cases of extreme weather or perhaps a hazardous materials spill, you need to instruct people to shelter in place. It's always important to have the option for sending a pre-recorded alert or creating a custom alert on the fly.
While there are common elements to an effective emergency communication system, these systems will look very different depending on the site, the security organization, and other security and life safety systems you use. Here are basic site issues that will govern how a system looks for a specific customer. The first is number of buildings and outdoor areas you need to cover. This includes parking areas, which may be targets for crime, especially after hours. Remote or lightly traveled areas are priority targets for emergency call stations, as are athletic facilities such as pools and outdoor fields. If you have a hosted security operations center arrangement, you can integrate video with these call stations as well. For outbound notification, you'll want to make sure you can segment alerts by indoor and outdoor areas, by building, floor, and even hallway or room. A second consideration is how the site is used. For example, whether people live on site, what types of hazardous materials are in use, etc. Site and layout of the building or buildings are also considerations. For example, large, sprawling facilities may have 10 or more entry points. This poses special access control problems. Emergency communication systems can be integrated with access control so you can alert a designated person if, for example, a door is propped open. Construction type is also an issue, especially when you're considering installation questions, such as hardwire versus Wi-Fi. For example, some old world construction buildings can be tough to penetrate with Wi-Fi, leading to communication dead spots. In addition, we've seen some reports of issues with lead construction for wireless communication. Your system should be flexible enough to overcome different types of issues related to construction. Finally, the overall threat assessment of the locality or region is important. Crime profiles, probability for extreme weather threats such as tornadoes or hurricanes, all of these will affect how you design your communication system.
An emergency communication system should conform to your security organization and not the other way around. That is one of the biggest advantages to an IP-based system. It's almost infinitely flexible and configurable. Let's briefly look at how typical educational institutions organize around the two main emergency communications functions, that is, outbound notification and inbound calls for help. On the slide, here are the personnel typically responsible for outbound notification at different types of educational institutions. If you're a large university, you probably need a notification system on a central software platform. These systems are capable of being used by multiple operators at the same time. The activation for emergency alerts is generally handled through this software, and we'll show you that again in a moment. Some of you may want a system you can activate from on or off campus. If you don't have full-time staff on site, you may also want a way for mobile security guards to activate an alert after hours. These can be set up to activate with buttons or key switches. Primary and secondary schools may want software and sometimes a panic button or key switch to activate especially urgent alerts. Our system has an easy-to-use software interface, but also easily integrates with panic buttons and key switch activation hardware. All of these groups may use email or text mass notification systems and may want to integrate on-site alerts with mass alerts. For example, if you send an alert through MetaSecure help stations, you have the option of dispatching that alert through your text or email provider.
So here are the personnel responsible for inbound notification at different types of educational institutions. Emergency help calls at large universities typically feed into a dispatch center, usually via software or phone lines. At smaller universities and commuter colleges without a central dispatch organization, calls can feed directly into the handheld radios of mobile security officers. And at primary and secondary schools, calls can feed into the school resource officer's radio or to a third-party monitoring center. We've looked at site considerations and security organizations. Here's one other important consideration: how other security or life safety systems your customer has or wants can be integrated with your emergency communication system. IP systems offer a lot of integration options. Here are some examples. You can integrate pan-tilt-zoom video cameras that can be directed to look at a help station when the help button is pressed. Similarly, prop doors and other access control issues can initiate the system to alert in general or to specific people. Handheld radios can receive help calls. Gas detectors can trigger the system to evacuate a building or site if hazardous materials are detected. In the case of a shooter, this can also be done with gunshot detectors. The system can automatically alert everyone to lockdown. Other communication systems on-site and off can be integrated to make full use of existing investments and extend the system. So let's look at some examples of an IP-based emergency communication system. On the screen here are our emergency help stations. We have inside and outside help stations, and all of them have flashing lights, sirens and alert tone, voice alerting, and LCD text instruction. In addition, each one has a help button and is equipped with a microphone to provide live voice two-way communication. As mentioned, a powerful benefit of an IP-based system is that it molds to how your security organization and site are set up. It allows multiple people from on-site and off-site to use the system, including third-party security operations center.
So let's go to our live demo system. What you see on the screen before you is the main Command Center software screen. You see on the left-hand side, we have a window in which we can either launch instant alerts or we can build alerts for more specific targeted notification. Below, we have a request for help window where request for help comes in, and those calls are handled and managed in this area. To the right-hand side, we have an interactive map, and this map is very powerful and provides a lot of information for the system operator. As you see, you can zoom in on the map to look at specific locations and drag and hold and move that map around. You can also see buildings that have live systems. When I mouse over, you see that bold outline, and you're able to see different views of buildings. For example, here's a building view that shows me a picture of the building and a set of floors in there. I can see on the first floor is an active system, and if I advance to that floor, I see a picture of the floor plan of that building, and I also can see here I have an active device in the chemical lab. Single click on a device gives me some information about that device, and I can work back through those different views by using the walking menu across the top of the screen. I also can select locations for alerting. A single click on a building not only gives me information, but that red outline shows me that that building has been selected for alerting. Beneath the map, I have a log area that shows me all the information and activity on the system within the last 24-hour period, and in some other log areas of the software are more permanent logs, which allow me to go back and review system operation, alerts that were sent, inbound calls for help that were received. The system gives me some real-time status information. Across the top left here, I can see information about how many devices are in my system and about some of the communication gateways. If I had an alert that was active, I would see that listed here. And for example, here you can see I have one request for help, which was down here in our request for help window. It's active, and it tells me some information about that. And that's pretty much a quick overview of the Command Center software for the Metasecure system. What we would like to do now is show you the system in action. We've put together a few short video clips to show you how to send an instant alert and also receive a call for help. So we will play those now.
In an active shooter situation, you can alert everyone at your site in seconds using an instant alert. To launch the instant alert with Command Center software, you simply click on the active shooter button and then click again to confirm and send the alert.
Attention. Attention. A gunman has been reported in this area. Take shelter immediately by closing and locking your doors and stay away from glass and windows. Do not come out of your shelter until you are notified by a uniformed police officer that it is safe to do so.
That's how quickly you can send an instant alert. On the Command Center software, notice that the building we sent the alert to is now in alert mode and is turned yellow instead of green. Across the top in the status bar, we see the active shooter alert and when that was sent out. And we also see dispatch details about the alert, including when it was sent, where it was sent, the text that would be displayed on the screen, and additional information. And so that's how you send an instant alert using the Command Center software.
Here is a short video showing you how an inbound call for help is managed in the system.
Let's take a look at how a call for help is managed by the system.
Request for help. Request.
This is a test of an emergency call for help. I've just pressed the help button and am now talking with you hands-free.
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly as well.
I can also see your location on the map. I can talk with you and find out what's going on and quickly send help if you need it. I'm going to hang up the call now.
Thank you.
So I can hang up the call. And now we see a couple of things. I see on the map the call for help is indicated by the icon for the unit, which is flashing. I can see my active calls for help, and the status bar identifies the current call for help. And I can also replay the audio conversation that I just had.
This is a test of an emergency call for help.
And that's how we handle a call for help in the Command Center software.
One other thing we wanted to note is about the size of the system. As with everything else with IP systems, this can be configured to fit your site. You can have a few help stations, or you can have a full campus-wide system, whatever works for you. That's it for today. We hope this was informative. We would be glad to set up an online or in-person demo or answer any questions you may have. Just give us a call or drop us an email. Thanks for joining us.